Well, hi everybody, and welcome to week 2 of Introduction to Digitization Projects. I hope last week's readings, postings, and assignments went well for all of you. Of course, keep letting me know if there are any questions you have, and if I can't answer them, like especially about Canvas, I will find out the answers and let you know. So this week we're going to talk about, I'm going to go over a few logistical things about discussions and assignments, and then we're going to do just a little bit of work on planning and prioritizing. So this week is all about this plan and prioritize sort of foundational piece for digitization projects. I mean, the whole course is about digitization project planning, but this week in particular, we're going to talk about laying that foundation at the beginning of the project. So let's get into it. A note to start with, as you've seen, this course uses the Digital Readiness Toolkit to provide a pretty fair amount of the resources and recommendations. And the authors of that toolkit, of which I am admittedly one, but there are also several others, were also interested in improving that toolkit over time. We go through a major revision every couple of years, and we're continuously making smaller updates. So this is totally not required. It is just an option for you. If you have thoughts about the toolkit itself, resources that could be included, anything that's confusing or that you wish were included, or if you really like the way it's set up or any particular features, I'd love to hear from you on that. So I set up a separate Canvas discussion board where you can post, and I turned on the anonymous option for that one in case you just don't want any negative feedback to be tied to you, which is totally fine. And if you have thoughts about the toolkit, I'd love to see you post there. Please feel free to email me too if you'd like to. Again, this is not required or graded in any way, just an opportunity for you to share your thoughts. And then a couple of notes as we're getting into the weekly project planning assignments. So every week you're going to be planning a section of your own digitization project that you proposed last week. However, it's fine if you don't know the answers each week. For instance, the week that we talk about copyright and permissions, you might not know the copyright status of all the items in your proposed collection, and that's totally fine. The goal is really just for you to know the right questions to ask when you come across new information. So as you're filling out those weekly, they're worksheets, but really just sections of a project plan, as you're filling those out, just indicate, what things you don't know the answers for, maybe why you don't know the answers, or how you might go about getting them. Because this is a continuing education course, it's really meant to be of the most benefit to you. So I just want to see you think through how to get answers rather than need to see all of the answers. Similarly, you might learn something later on in the course that changes your plan. Like you might learn something in week 7 about storage that changes your digitization plan for week 4. That's totally fine. It's very realistic. It happens for organizations doing a plan all the time, which is why I strongly recommend going through this whole planning process before you start so that you run into these changes in the planning process rather than in the doing process. I just recommend making those changes when you submit your final project at the end of the course. And as I said, as I'm going to keep saying, keep in mind that this is a continuing education course. The content is really meant to be as useful to your own work as possible. I'm not going to be a harsh grader on those weekly assignments. I'm going to maybe point out things to keep in mind or to consider, but whatever effort you put in, it should be focused on how you would actually undertake a digitization project in your own life and work. So don't be too hard on yourself. Don't let perfect be the enemy of the very good, but just do consider how this project would work in your own professional or personal life. One more logistics note, and then we'll get into the content. So I set most of the discussions for this course to be required, but there are a few weeks where the workload is a little bit heavier, this week included, that I made the discussions optional. You are welcome to post in those discussion boards if you would like to. I think it'll make for a good experience. You're welcome to respond to your classmates in those optional discussions, but you don't have to on a few of those weeks, and this is one of those weeks. On the required discussions, you are also required to respond substantively to one classmate's post, and you are certainly welcome to answer more than one if you wish. All right, logistics out of the way. The biggest question you're really asking this week in the Plan and Prioritize week is, why are you doing this project in the first place? Why are you digitizing? Why do you want to share this digital information? Because the answers to this question, and you're going to have probably several answers, will inform every other decision you make about this project. Your reason why will dictate your level of risk management, about permissions, how much and what effort, what kind of effort you put into the actual digitization, your quality assurance procedures, and so on. So that is really the big question this week. And that the worksheet you're filling out for this week has a lot of questions, but they're mostly focused on, why are you doing this project? For whose benefit? Most of the rest of the readings in the assignment should be pretty self-explanatory. So I'm not going to hit on every reading and part of the assignment. I'm just going to give you a few other overview thoughts. In the assignment, there's a section called Roles and Resources, where you're going to be asked to estimate what you need in terms of equipment, software, training, that kind of thing, and how much it will cost. Keep in mind that it is totally fine to estimate. Again, that's pretty realistic for real-life digitization projects. Give it your best guess based on research you can do for now. So for instance, if you decide that your project is going to be digitizing 150 slides, you'll probably need a scanner that comes with those slide frames. Do some Google searching to estimate how much a scanner will cost. If you don't know what kind of scanner you want, you can guess for now, and then revise your answer based on what we learn in the Digitize section of the course. Again, very realistic standard procedure. If you're not sure where to find the information you need for those educated guesses, check the toolkit, post in the weekly discussion board to see if your classmates can help, or ask me. I'm happy to give you whatever information I know. But the goal of this really rough cost estimation right now is to start thinking about where to get funding for your project. So a $5,000 project is pretty different from a $50,000 project. And the people and organizations you ask for that funding will differ significantly based on that amount. And that's part of the planning process. In the Digital Readiness Toolkit section, you're also going to see some recommendations to plan or lay out several different things. And here, I wanted to point out these that you don't need to do for this class, but they are recommended activities for planning an actual digitization project. You are welcome to do them now if you wish. If you want to submit them and I can give you some feedback on them just for your own project, I'm happy to do that. But you don't need to do them for completion in this week's assignment. So the digital mission statement, if you have audiovisual materials that you're talking about doing an inventory or a self-assessment on, or writing a digital collection development policy, those are things I don't need to see, although I'm happy to give you feedback if you send them to me. And then lastly, you're going to see in the toolkit that the topic of digital preservation is broached. And I talked about this the tiniest bit last week. We're going to talk about it more when we get into storage, but for now, it's a super brief introduction to the concept. As I said last week, digitization is not the same thing as digital preservation. Digitization is scanning or reformatting material into a digital file on your computer. That's really kind of what we're talking about quite a bit in this course. Digital preservation is part of your storage strategy. It's making sure that files can be opened in the future, that it's in a file format that can be opened, that the file isn't corrupted, and that computers in 5 or 10 or 50 years will be able to view the files. Digital preservation is never done. It's a continuous and ongoing set of policies and procedures to keep those digital files readable. This week, the only reason you really need to think about it at this point is to figure out who's going to be responsible for maybe not even doing that, but looking at it, paying attention to digital preservation on an ongoing basis when you're in that roles and responsibilities section. All right, that's it for this week. Thanks so much. Keep in touch with me and your classmates, and I'm really looking forward to seeing everyone's digitization project plans.